And I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Troy Redfern. How you doing, Troy?
And not so bad, dude. How's it going?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Glad to have you back on, mate. It's always good to speak to you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's been a while since we chatted, isn't it? I think it's
Yeah, a
been a
little.
sort of 6 months.
Yeah,
Yeah, how's things, man?
yeah, good, man. I think last time we spoke properly was just Push Play. So thanks again for playing, man.
Yeah, that was brilliant. That was a fantastic festival. That was the one where I think I met the drummer for that gig a couple of hours before we went on. I think I'd never,
Really?
never met the guy, yeah, and Nicky couldn't make that one, so I sort of had a depth player in, and it's always a bit hairy, but there's a lot of good players around, so you send them the material and they jumped on. Well, he jumped on and smashed it, which was, you never know what's going to happen, like you say, because you don't know, but you just hope for the best.
Well, he sounded great, man. Wouldn't have thought you had only sort of met him that day, mate. It sounded great set, so I worked out on that occasion.
Yeah, no, he's good. It was good, but like you said, it's always on seat of the pants stuff, but which can be sometimes good. When you give a good energy. When if you're playing with someone for the first time and you sort of like and his energy was levels and adrenaline were probably really high. So
Well, I seem to remember the first thing he said to me we walked off stage was, "Where's the toilet?" So, his adrenaline
he
levels
said, yeah,
pretty high.
yeah.
As we speak, mate, last Thursday released your brand new single, "The Strange." Another brilliant track, mate. Another storming track. What was the inspiration from it?
Um, musically, probably my love of bands like Space Hog and stuff like that. I got a big influence of those guys. Um, yeah, that was that. So a lot of people have I've read reviews and stuff that are coming through, and there's a lot of sort of like T-Rex references and stuff like that. Personally, I don't. I sort of get it, but I suppose the influence of like I said, like my love, especially with that track of Space Hog, they're probably Bowie T-Rex influence, so it's probably like a second-hand influence, really. Um, yeah, and I just wanted something sort of like that was big and sort of melodic. I mean, I think that was the thing, and not to for it not to be sort of like too southern rock or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands sort of doing that sort of thing, and I think with this bunch of songs off this record, it was just kind of taking the blinkers off stylistically and just kind of like letting what I do come through more. You know what I mean? So I don't think Wings of Salvation was necessarily sort of like thought about too much, but in that kind of way stylistically. But I think with this album, it's more of more what I would do. You know what I mean? My natural influences.
Yeah. So when you were writing for this album, obviously when we last spoke, I guess on the show, it was for Wings of Salvation, but how did the writing process change from Wings of Salvation to this record with Invocation?
Um, there was just like I had a little stint of notebooking stuff. I went down to Cardigan for a week, stayed in a shepherd's hut, just took the guitar down, took my phone down, um, and just get some bits and pieces out there. Some of the basic ideas. And these, when I say basic ideas, I mean just like the rhythm guitar part and some vocal melodies and things like that. But then once I got that back here, I started working the process with Dave. It was kind of similar in the way that it was super fast. We would work on the pre-production when we were getting the demos together. It was like Dave's based in Ireland, so he would be on Zoom and loop back, so he'd be controlling the computer at my side. So we'd be sort of like getting the demos and arrangements and originally the program drums, because the demos had obviously the program drums in them. And yeah, it was just done again super quick, which, like I said, I think I said the same before. Like, I think that's the best way of doing it, or a good way of doing it, because like Wings of Salvation was a month, I think, from start to finish. And this one again, I think it was probably about 5 weeks. There was a bit of a gap this time before it was mixed, but it was super fast with Dave.
I was going to say, like last time we spoke, I remember you saying it was sort of like 4 or 5 weeks for Wings of Salvation. It sounds like you had a similar process in capturing the lightning and the with it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I went with Dave. Because of the timescale, because I wanted to put something out this year. Um, we, I had that block of time. He had that block of time free, so it was condensed time. Like I had to get it done within this little window. Um, and I think that process, it works. It worked on those two albums. Whether I do that again, I think because the album's going to be sort of spread across this year, what I might do is start writing the next album fairly soon.
Oh, okay.
So I've got a year to do something different. You know what I mean? I've got a lot of breathing space to get some sort of some different aspects of what I do. I think when I record. So there's so much time pressure. Do you know what I mean? It's not like,
Yeah.
okay, I want to do this in February and it's going to be done within 4 weeks. I can sort of spread that out over this year and get ideas down and just explore some different avenues musically. I think because these last three albums have been, and like with the Wings and this one especially we chopped away all the fat. You know what I mean? It was kind of like on the Strange. There's no sort of long link sections between verses and choruses. There's no sort of it's very refined. You know what I mean? It's kind of like chop away all the fat. You got like 3 minute 30 song or 3 minute 40, whatever it is. And when I play live, especially like the sections like in Sanctify, there's more sort of jam elements, or there's just different places I take it, and I wouldn't mind getting some of that kind of stuff recorded. Whether it's just a soft release, I don't know, or whether I put some singles in it and then have some of that as well.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the plan for this year, is to write something that's not so, well, not all of it is so, based in sort of like short song format,
Yeah.
So if it's a 7 minute tune, it's a 7 minute tune. I'm not going to chop anything away from it.
Have you felt like with these last few records, because you've done it in this format, that you've had to do shorter songs, or did it just come out that way in the process?
I think it was a slight conscious effort in that way, So you get the raw idea, which was the inspired bit, where you're kind of like making a melody and a chord progression up, so that is the song, Then obviously the lyrics.
Yeah.
But I think and Dave as a producer was aware that we wanted, it to have singles and to be sort of like a radio album, that could get played on the radio and stuff like that. So that was in the back of our minds when we were sort of like doing arrangements, or when me and Dave were sort of like talking about arrangements. So we were just a bit more aware of, okay, let's trim it all back, and that's why I said I'd like to do something that's not that, that's the opposite of that. But like I said, it might just be for my own sort of, for my own thing, and it might come out sort of just as a soft release maybe, or have 3 singles within that thing, because I think that's what's lacking in my catalog. I think is the stuff that I do live, the more soundscapey, jammy kind of stuff that I love. I love doing that stuff, and it'd be nice to have that recorded in a way to get it on an album.
Yeah, it'd be nice to like capture that part of your sound, because obviously that's a big part, like you're saying, of your live sound. So it'd be good to capture that side of it in the record.
Yeah, but Invocation, I think from the progression of Fire Cosmic, Wings to this one, I think, and everyone says the cliche, but it's the best of those 3, I think, or it's just refined. I mean, we hit our stride on the last one. I think we got a good sort of thing going between us, the way we were working, and then obviously this one was recorded not that long after that one, really. It's probably a year after, wasn't it? Maybe. So when we came back to it to work together, it was just it was super easy, and I think the songs are stronger and probably a bit heavier. I know you've heard a couple of things off it. It's I would say it feels more like me, if you know what I mean. From my perspective, it feels right. You know what I mean? It feels like, okay, right, this feels like we've hit it, on the head.
And other than Dave, was it the rest of the same team coming back from Wings of Salvation?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. You know, it's the same thing. We got Paul Stewart on drums from the Feeling Again. We got Lee Russell engineering down at his place, Dulcetone Studios for the drum sound, and Joe Webb mixed it and mastered it. So it's the same team, but listening to them side, but certain tracks have popped up, so I've heard sort of things coming through, and then listen to the new ones. I think that the mix, I prefer the mix on this one. I mean, I just like that, but it's different sort of music. It's slightly heavier, so it would have needed to be mixed slightly differently, but it's a little bit brighter and and again the drums are real on this. So there's no sort of samples or replacement stuff. So considering they had to do that, because when you come to mix it, if you're using sort of drum samples, it's very easy to get a good foundation sound, because it's drum samples sound amazing anyhow. So you've got a little work to do. You put the guitars around and vocals on top, and the track sounds great. But when you've got real drums and you're trying to make that, and you've got to make those sound good, that's a hard scale. And I think Joe did a brilliant job on that, on the drum production.
I mean, the tracks I've heard so far, both with the Strange and Getaway and the Fever, the drums sounding brilliant. You say it's that slightly darker tone. I guess Wings of Salvation was a bit more. I don't know. It wasn't quite as heavy, like you say. It was probably slightly more southern tone to it. This seems to
Yeah.
be a little bit more raw.
Yeah, and it's something I've always on my Bandcamp. You probably haven't heard the stuff over there, but there's stuff that's been kicking around there for years. Since I've been sort of doing recording and stuff, and there's a lot of heavy stuff on there. There's a thing I did, which the production's not great on it at all, but there's a thing I did called the Black Flames, with a different singer, which is like super heavy stuff. And that was done probably 2006, 7. So it's always been something I've done. You know what I mean? So I've not sort of like this. I've not just like deviated from like blues slide to go into the heavier sort of thing. And in fact, this is probably lighter than what I was doing back then. But so I've always loved that stuff, and it's good to actually get a balance between being super heavy and the more the bluesier sort of stuff.
Absolutely, man. Well, there's obviously, like you say, the album's out in later this year. Is it May? The album's out, isn't it? Is it May?
Yeah. 17th. Yeah.
Yeah, May 17th. The album's out. Your Kickstarter campaign went really well, mate. That went well. That was gone by the time I got out of work. For your first target on it, it was incredible.
That was mad. Yeah. I did the Kickstart on Wings, and it went over the target. It got about £1,000 over, but it was quite not slow, but it was kind of. I think the thing is with Kickstarter, from what I've heard, you have to meet half the target in 24 hours to finish it. If you don't get to halfway in 24 hours, the chances are it's not going to be happening unless you play your own money into it and pretend people have, have done it, because that's what people do, So I put a fairly low. I think I put the same as Wings, about 4.5, and it was 9 hours. It was just like mad. But you don't know, even though you get your name out there and you do publicity and you do gigs, but you're still never sure whether that translates into people backing something. Do you know what I mean? In real world terms, because it's all very well, socials and all that stuff, but the fact is, people buying tickets or buying albums, that's a whole different thing to putting a like on something. You know what I mean? Anyone can just click a screen and say like, but that's very different to sort of putting 30 quid up, and it went sort of super well. It was like 7 something, I think, in the end. It was, which was great, but as as we spoke about before, that's probably a third of what you need, to put the album out. So yeah, but it's great. It's great that people want to back it, and I'm super pleased that that I can get it out there, and it's all good.
Is there any tracks on the album in particular that you haven't released as singles yet that you're looking forward to see people's reaction on?
There's a song called "The Calling," which isn't going to be a single, unfortunately, because I'm definitely going to put it out, but not as an actual official single.
Yeah.
But it will come out, as a soft release or whatever, just via myself, via my socials. I might try and get a bit of a video done for it, because you know, it's my favorite track off the album, but it's not a banger. It's more of an epic sort of
Okay.
tune than a sort of banger, you know. And I think that is, you know, definitely my favorite track off the record. And the Native, another one which again is definitely not a single, but we've been playing it live this last year, because I wrote it back February. So when I was doing the Commoners tour, and I don't know if we played it at Bury St Edmunds at the Just Push Play. I can't remember if we played it there.
But
Yeah,
no, like you say, no, you got the Native and the Calling as well, was it?
yeah. Those two, you know, like I look, you know, I looked down the list of tracks, you know, because I had to sort of like do stuff recently with sort of like you know, press and stuff, and talking about it, and you know, there's so many tracks on there that I really like, that are really super, you know, in my opinion, are super strong, as in to go into the set, and you know, and be great to play live. So no, you know, it's cool, and like I said, the Calling is probably one of my favorites. Um, you know, but they're all different. You know, there are, with the album, you know, there's different sort of aspects. So it's kind of like, you've got sort of like songs that are a little bit more vibey, like the Native, and you've got the epic one, like, you know, the Calling, and the glammy-ish one, which is like the Strange, which got that sort of major sort of like upbeat sort of vibe about it. And then there's a heavier sort of one called Van Helsing, which is heavy, you know. So there's a lot of bases on it, you know. Sort of we managed to hit a nice spread of sort of vibes, you know, on the album, I think.
Nice one, man. So where did you record this album? Because obviously over the years you've recorded in some pretty cool studios. Where did you record this one specifically?
Well, the core of it was recorded at that Dulcitone in Kettering, you
It
know.
was.
Yeah, and then overdubs were done sort of like different places. Some are here, some are Dave's, you know, and but yeah, you know, the core rhythm tracks down there, which is great. Like I said, it's great because it's a huge space. Like I said, it's converted chapel, and yeah, and Lee Russell's just got an amazing place down there. You know, beautiful guitars, amazing sort of like, just an amazing setup, and it was good because you can multi-mic that room. So we put close mics in on the kit, and then sort of like one's further back and one's right further back. So you got like a,
Oh, so you kind of got spread on the drum sound as well.
yeah, and that was the reason why Dave was, you know, because it's not a public studio, it's his own studio,
All
but
right.
you know, but it's an epic studio. So for someone's personal studio, this is like unbelievable. You know what I mean? So people can't hire it. So, but Dave's really good mates with Lee. So Lee's, as a favour, it lets him, you know, do occasional projects, and so it was cool to go down there, to be, you know, for him to have us there, really.
That's amazing, man. That's good that
Uh,
he's you there. That's his sort of, like you say, his own pride and joy.
yeah, and it is. You know, like I said, I've got some bits of video that I took from there, and yeah, you would see from just the videos, just like, Jesus Christ, that's a nice private, you know, private studio. And a
Speak,
guitar.
speaking of videos, though, man, the video for the Strange looked great. Where did you film that?
That was done up at Baskerville Hall, which is just, it's only about 5 miles from here.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, Baskerville Hall is the sort of like the Conan Doyle connection with the sort of Hound of the Baskervilles. You know,
Yeah.
that's the name of the sort of, you know, where he sort of named that family from that sort of place, I think. And yeah, we just went up there, and got the team of people, got my good friend Alan to come and film it for me, Danny to sort of help with the lighting, and then I sort of take it back and chop it up and edit it, and you know, and again, like I was talking to you before we started, you know, it was I was against the clock, so it was, you know, I finished that on New Year's Eve about 8 p.m, and I just thought, right, we're done, and I managed to get it saved to Dropbox and finished, but yeah, no, you know, it was good fun to make that.
Well, not many people on a time scale, mate, can kind of get the whole fire tricks and everything else you got going on in a video like that.
There was loads of it. I didn't put. There's not that much in there, but yeah, Ash did quite a bit, because it was that we were in that storm. I can't remember what the name of the storm was. There was
Oh
it's
yeah,
been
yeah,
a,
yeah.
so it was super. We did it outside the basketball hall, and after we finished the video shoot, and it was super windy, like, you know, and you got fire and stuff, and yeah, we did. There was quite a bit of footage of that. There's probably, I don't know, about a quarter of an hour of it, and I just wanted to sort of have elements of it, and it's just small amounts. So at some point, I may do another sort of edit of like a reel or something with more of that stuff in.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, she's brilliant at that stuff. She's like, a feisty character.
Well, I remember you saying with the sort of martial arts side of things she does as well, mate. You don't want to mess with anyone who can do five tricks back to back like that, and then kick your ass as well.
No, so no, it's good. It was good. She sort of knocked out of the park, and it was a really good team of people, really good, bunch of people. It was good. It was good fun, especially when you're doing it over quite a few hours. I mean, you want a good team of people up there, and make it enjoyable. The hard bit is, like I said, reviewing the footage, because you've got, I think it was about 18 takes. So you bring that into your Premiere Pro, and so you've got 18 times 3.5 minutes, all stacked up on top of each other. So you've got to review that footage before you can know what you got to chop up. You know what I mean? So you've got to know all the shots. So I've got a little process where I look at the first 3 or 5 seconds of 18 clips and choose the first, the best bit of that 3 seconds or 5 seconds, and then move on to the next 5 seconds and look at 18 of those, and then and then you go across it and cross it until you get to 3 minutes, and then you obviously, as I'm doing that, you're cutting into the beat, into the time, so the cuts are on the, but I've done it on all of them. I think all of it. Sanctify didn't do. Charlie Mindheart did that one, but all the others, like Ghosts and stuff, I did with Alan, and I think Danny helped on a few of them. But these days it's not like the MTV days, is it? Sort of videos are super disposable and they come and go so quick. You put all the time into them and do all that, and then it kind of gets a day or two's kind of like viewing and it's gone. You know what I mean? So it's like. So it's good, considering the sort of the budget, wasn't huge, but I don't think, as long as you make something that feels right and it shows the band doing their thing, that, for me, that's the main thing. I didn't want, I wouldn't want, I didn't want storyline in it. I think it can go south when you try and put a story into a video. Unless you do it really well, it can look really cheesy and really bad. if you're trying to do some acting, whatever. But I think the performance-based thing is the best way to go, because at least it is what it is. You know what I mean? You playing the tune, and yeah.
And you are being what you are as well, and what people have known you for, so they know what.
Yeah, not sort of trying to do like an acting job in the middle of it. You know what I mean? It's going to be bad, But no, it's all good, and like I said, but I do want to get the calling out. Before the next single. So I suppose the next single would be in, I don't know. I know the album's out 17th of May. So whether the single comes out sort of in between that, I don't know. But if I can get the calling out and get some kind of visual for it, because I think it's really difficult if you don't have any visual aspect of a tune. Just to, no one really listens to it. If you put it up there just as with your YouTube still, I don't think people are interested. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing.
No, we live in a very visual world, mate. I think people do want that, even if that video becomes disposable to a certain degree. I still think it's what brings people in.
Yeah.
So, but it's already, it was out. It was only out officially Thursday. Already getting great responses, great reviews. Got put on Joe Bonamaster's playlist, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really good, and it's good it's at the top. So when people go on there, I mean, that's because sometimes those things can get buried at the bottom, and you're thinking, what, 30 songs down, is anyone going to listen to that? But no, it's cool. It's cool, and the reviews have been really good. They've been really super positive and whatnot. So no, it's all good. It's all it's all positive.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So when you were writing the album, I know you were saying you wrote it in quite a short period of time in terms of the core ideas.
Yeah.
Where did you go to do that? Did you just stay at home? Did you go away anywhere? Did you?
Well, for the core ideas, I went to Cardigan, which is just like I hired a little shepherd's hut.
Oh, okay, cool.
And just went down, took the guitar down, took my my phone to voice note stuff, and just thought, it was just like a little bit of time just to kind of get away and, you know, do you know what I mean? And just sort of, you know, get some headspace to sort of start.
Yeah.
And I did the same when, you know, like, when I got back, you know, I've still sort of like, you know, getting ideas sorted as me and Dave started our process, you know, as well. And a few of them, I think the native was, I think that came out just on the Silvertone when I was just sort of like just open up a project and started sort of playing, and that one kind of, you know, the vibe of that riff came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, you know, it was good. Yeah, it was good process and super, again, it's just super quick. You know, I'm of the sort of belief that, you know, if I'd have started writing that album 2 weeks later, there would have been a completely different bunch of songs, because it's almost like, you know, it depends what sort of writer you are, I think. But if you're the sort of guy who sits down with a guitar and just kind of like improvises your vocal melodies and your chords,
Yeah.
every day that's going to be different. You know what I mean? So you're getting this little snapshot of just that month, you know. Whereas if it had been sort of like a couple of weeks later, you know, it would have just been different batch of songs, you know.
Absolutely.
Because some people construct something in a different kind of way where it's more methodical, and they're like, okay, I want to do this, and that's a whole different process, a different type of thing. But with the last two albums especially, it's been more that kind of just seeing what comes out really quick. You know what I mean? So, you know, you sit there with a, you know, guitar starts, you know, playing, and you know, start singing the vocal melody, and then get that down, and then kind of like, and then, oh, the chorus for that is this, and before you know it, like I said, working with Dave, because we were arranging so fast, and he would like get the drums programmed up quick, and the bass would be in there. You'd be
Nice.
like, you'd have a song sketched out pretty thoroughly within a super short space of time. So you could sort of like, you know, it's gone from this sketch that's really kind of like basic thing to a fleshed out tune, like, you know, within like a couple of hours. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's cool.
So that was, you know, a good way of doing it. Almost, I suppose, like doing it in a band room. That's what you'd be doing with that, wouldn't it? You'd be sort of there with a drummer, and, you know,
Yeah, trying to flesh it out.
yeah, yeah. You know, that's the only thing I'd like to, again, like I said, I'd like to do is sort of like, you know, maybe with Nicky or something like that. The guy, you know, Nicky Waters, who I'm sort of playing a lot with now, is to get in a band room and sort of like work off the drums. You know what I mean? So, you know, jam, because I think that way you can, you know, there's so many different approaches you can take. There's the kind of like guitar first vocal melody sort of thing, and then bass everything around it.
Yeah.
But if you're in a band room and you sort of, you know, you're playing with the drummer, the rhythmic ideas that someone's throwing at you would pull you in a different direction straight away, because you'd be responding to rhythm. Do you know what I mean? A different, you know,
Yeah.
a rhythm that you haven't come up with. So then that would fire you off in a different kind of way. So
You get that feeling of back and forth of ideas and sort of thing, even though it's
yeah, 100%, especially rhythmically, because, you know, I've probably got my own sort of set of rhythms in my head. You know, when I pick the guitar up, that I would do,
mm,
and someone like Nicky would have completely different set. You know, and he's a great drummer, so you know, he's really into his time signature stuff. So he could do some, you know, some really interesting stuff, and which we sort of like, again, we do in the sort of jam stuff when we're playing live. We can do some of that stuff. You know, we can improvise. You know, and so I've got a feel about what he does. You know, I've got a sense of where he would go with things, and it'd be nice to kind of like work some of that stuff up.
that sounds cool. So that would, in an ideal world, would that be what you want to do with the next record?
It would be, yeah. It would definitely, 100%. Yeah, you know, I've said this loads of times. You know, there's an album I want to sort of make, that's um, more of my influences, like the Zappa influences. You know, the more instrumental stuff. You know, that kind of thing. Like I've sort of touched on it with more Thunder Moon, and some bits and pieces I put on Bandcamp. But that was kind of like old stuff that I kind of like put out there. No, but I'd like to do something like that properly and get it mixed properly so it sounds good, you know. And
Cool.
but again, that, you know, it would be, well, it's hard to know, like, because when I put that Thunder Moon out on Bandcamp, I remember really deliberating, thinking this is probably not right to put this out, because everyone knows me for doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
and I'm putting this out, and people are going to go, hang on, you know, what the hell is this? You know, so I was really sort of like genuinely concerned that should I do this? And I put it on Bandcamp, and it got the most streams and downloads of anything I put it up there. So it was like I was completely wrong. And what I thought, I was second guessing people. You know, you're trying to second guess people's taste and ideas and what they're going to think of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And that's crazy, because you can't imagine what someone's going to think of something. You know what I mean? It's like, how can you do that? You know, so talking about this like record I'd like to make is, you know, it would be yeah, it would be along those sort of lines, and then, you know, again, like I said, it may not be a big push record. You know, it might just be sort of like something sort of like that goes between this one and the next, you know, official one. But it'd be nice to do it. You know.
Nice, man. I mean, speaking of things that are nice to do, I know one tour you were particularly excited to be on the tail end of last year. He supports a lot with Philip Sayce. How did that work out, man? Those shows looked amazing from what I saw.
It was wicked. It was absolutely brilliant. You know, I've been a fan of his since about, I don't know, 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And Philip was like, when I was getting my old band together, Electric Blues Reaction, he was one of the influences for doing that old band I had.
Right.
So I was massively, you know, influenced by the guy and kind of like in awe of the guy. And in fact, one of my old students who I used to teach guitar to way back around that sort of time was at the Bristol show, the first one.
Oh, nice.
He came up to me at the merch stand after and said that, he said, just, you know, imagine if you told yourself back then that you'd be playing with Philip, you know what I mean? Because I remember showing him Philip Sayce's YouTube videos back, you know, back 2005. And we would talk about him, and I turned him on to him, and it was like, but no, it was great. You know, Philip was lovely, you know, just absolutely amazing person. And every night just tore it apart, you know what I mean? Consistently, unbelievably amazing. You know, I think, you know, in that kind of like blues, you know, proper blues world, I don't think there's anyone that comes near the guy, just for my taste. You know, there's a lot of people doing that sort of thing, but Philip is just, I know, yeah, it's firepower and his kind of energy and his vibe and his flow. Just all of it is on the money. You know what I mean? There's no sort of like, it doesn't feel like more like blues licks, which a lot of the, you know, a lot when I scroll on Instagram, you see some blues player doing some blues licks. You're like, I can't even watch it, because it's just like, you've seen those blues licks done by a million times by people who are, you know, of old. You know what I mean? Of like, you know, pick a blues sort of guy from back in this, you know, from the 30s to the 60s or whatever, and you've heard that, and it's just like a bit of a regurgitation, you know, to me.
Yeah.
But with Philip, it feels like there's a massive flow, and it doesn't feel like someone sticking licks together. Do you know what I mean? You know, then, you know, here's that sort of blues lick, here's that blues lick, and that, you know, and which to me some of it can sound like, you know, but with him it's the opposite of that. It feels like it's, you know, it's coming from somewhere else, you know. And it's not, you know, you know, it's in a cheesy way, it's sounding cheesy, but it feels like a spiritual thing. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like.
From another plane kind of thing.
100%. And that, you know, and so I was just, you know, to be out on the road with him, watching that every night, because generally when I'm supporting someone, you know, you finish your set, you get your stuff off, and then when they start their set, you're packing down, you're getting your, you know, back of stage. You kind of, but with Philip set, I made sure that I went out there and watched most of the set, you know, each night. And yeah, they treat me really well, you know, and like once I got the gig, it suddenly dawned on me that it would just be a bunch of guitar players, you know, sort of like with their arms folded. Then impressed me, because most of, you know, Philip's audience, I would presume a lot of them would be sort of guitar players, or, you know, that sort of crowd. But it didn't. It kind of, it wasn't, maybe because what I'm doing with the resonators and the slide thing, it's not kind of like chopsy, your standard sort of thing that people do on guitar, you know, for shreddy or anything like that, which would be judged, you know what I mean? Because if you start doing shred or you start doing licky stuff, you know, people are going to be like, well, you know, I can do better, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, whatever, mate.
And because of what I'm doing isn't anything to do with that, maybe, but because it, you know, it went really down really well. And what was great about his gigs was that audience was made up of 20 somethings, 30 somethings, you know. It was a young, and there were sort of older folks there, you know, but it was a massive spread of age group, which was great, which I've never seen on any of the sort of blues and rock gigs, that really not to that extent. So that was really cool, because it was good seeing young people out watching that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Which bodes well for for the genre. I think Marcus King is the same. I think he has a young crowd. I know someone who went to see his shows in Bristol, and someone else who went to London, and they both said it was like a lot of young people. And I'm guessing it depends what social media platform you're big on. I think that Marcus King is big on TikTok. I know Philip does a lot on Instagram with reels and stuff. And in fact, I saw two young people come up to the stand and the merch table, and I said to them, "How do you hear it, Philip?" And they both said that they got bombarded with reels and ended up sort of then clicking on it, and so it's interesting that that works, but seeing him live, you see sort of the reels and stuff. You see someone playing on the screen, but you can't get that size and that energy. You know what I mean? Like, well, that, if you're a gig goer, you know what I mean? You know that. But yeah, witnessing that stuff up close and sort of like, in a room was, it's mad.
I'm thinking you got to share the stage with him as well at one point. Did I see that come up?
He got me up on the last show in London.
Nice.
Which is mad, like the night before, like there was some talk about it, and indirectly, and I was like, right, and we were in Leeds the night before the last gig, and he was sound checking. I was kind of sat in the room and just out of the way, and he started playing. We said, "Where's Troy?" Just here, and he said, "Right, this is what we're going to be doing tomorrow night." So I whipped my phone out, hit record on the video. So they played this tune, and I filmed it, and on my guitars, I only took about 3 guitars out, but they're all like tuned down to C, and he's like mainly in E flat, which would mean me capoing up quite high, and having hardly any room to do anything. You know what I mean? So I thought, luckily when we're in Newcastle, I bought some 11s, some lighter gauge strings. And after the gig at Leeds, I whacked off the strings, put these 11s on, tuned up to E flat. So when we went down to London, I didn't use the silver tone. I kept that, for this encore. And yeah, I watched his video back, played along with it, and then when he gave me the call, went out and sort of blasted it. But it was it was cool. It was cool. Because it was a good crowd. I think it was about 500 down there. I think so. It was sold out, and it was a great vibe. Really good vibe in there. And it was just a really nice way to end the tour. Do you know what I mean? I got on really well with the guy. His whole team were lovely, and then to get up and sort of like and to jam with him was wicked. Especially my history of loving the guy and thinking that the guy that he's so good.
So first Bumblefoot and then Philip Sayce, mate. Who's next?
yeah. Don't know. It's mad. Yeah, that Bumblefoot one was a random one as well. So but yeah, I didn't think I'd get up with Philip, but it was great. It reminded me, because back in the day when I used to play sort of locally, sort of like around pubs, I'd play with some blues bands, and you get up and that was part of that was the whole thing, wasn't it? You get up and you sort of jam with someone for So it was a bit like that. So it felt kind of natural in that kind of way, but it was just like a large audience to be doing that in front of. And Philip is super loud, like I'm talking mega loud. So my main concern was getting my amp up to volume, because I don't think I turned the magnetone ever to that where I had to have it to get up to get up to his level. But yeah, it was absolutely wicked.
Nice one, man. I mean, one of the things I always liked about your sound, you mentioned in there with you, is the slide sound part of your sound, Troy. I've always mentioned
right.
that side of your playing. But one thing I've never asked you, mate, is when did you start playing slide, and how did you start picking it up?
So there's a few little things that I remember sort of from my past. I think it was about 14, and a friend of a friend lent me a Sunhouse album, like a vinyl. And at that time I was listening to Hendrix and sort of like rock stuff like Van Halen, and but this is pre-internet days, so you'd only kind of come across things that either friends lent you, or that were like Hendrix was well known. So if you're a guitar player, you kind of heard of him. And Sunhouse I'd not heard this album, which is obviously slide playing. And then when I was about 18, an old girlfriend's dad showed me how to, because he was majorly into tunings and fingerpicking. He showed me how to tune to open tunings and like modal tunings and stuff.
Nice.
So I started messing with it then, super basically, you know, just like. But I got the concept of what what was going on. He introduced me to Little Feet and stuff like that when I was about 18, and then just over the years, sort of like just did more and more of it. And then when I put the Electric Blues Reaction together, which was my old band before I went out by myself, in that band I was playing a lot of slide, and then it's just got more and more to the point where now I don't take a standard tune guitar out with me anymore. You know, I got a Gibson Les Paul there that I think Halleck, Halleck the photographer, sort of said to me the other day, because he takes a lot of photos for us, and he said he hasn't seen the Les Paul out, and I think it's been about 2 years since I've taken that standard tune guitar out. And I suppose that's, I'm writing most of the stuff in open tuning now. So most of the stuff, I don't think there's anything on Invocation in standard. And there's not much. Mercy might be the only one that's in standard tuning, I think, on the Wings of Salvation. But yeah, So I suppose as I'm writing in open tuning, that's kind of getting put into the set, so it's kind of like it pushed out anything that's in standard. Which is cool because it's down in C. Like the other day I had to play at Dingwalls as a duo with just me and the drummer.
Oh.
And if I was in standard tuning, it wouldn't have enough weight in that, when you tune right down to C, it's almost like playing a baritone or a bass at the same time. So it holds up just as one person.
Yeah, you've really got the thickness to the sound.
Yeah, and if you're going out solo, I know that when I did the Philip Sayce run in Leeds, we did 6 dates, and those Leeds and London were the last 2. And I know the sound guy in Leeds put a huge amount of bottom end in, like scary. So when I played, it was just like through the PA, it was honking. The guitar was like monster massive, and it sounded great because I could work it differently. I could sort of like play it more like I'm playing bass and guitar, So I was responding as I'm hearing. So when I went to the next gig in London, I said, talked to the sound guy, and I said, look, the guy last night put a ton of bass in. I said, can you do that? And he's like, yeah. And then when we did Dingwalls as a duo, I said to that guy, is there any chance of, because he's done a bass player that night, Kira wasn't there that night, and I said, can you put a lot of bass in? And he whipped out this unit. I don't know what it was. He was saying, this guy at Dingwalls, and it puts sort of some into the subs. So the subs are under the stage, and it was just ridiculous. The bottom end was just like honking. And what was funny about that gig, there was a Brave Rival on first. We were in the middle, and then it was Cardinal Black. And I think we were meant to be an acoustic act that night, but it ended up being sort of monster big. But it's good. I do like that thing, the duo thing. It's good fun, because you can just literally sort of take the set wherever you want. You can sort of like you just got drums behind you, so the drummer, it's quite an easy job for the drummer to like respond.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So if you decide to bring it right down, or if you decide to change key or do anything, you can go anywhere, and all you've got is the sort of drummers to follow you. So it's if you've got a bass player, they're thinking, Jesus, what keys he and what notes he playing, but
where am I going?
yeah. As jazz exploration.
So what does the rest of the year hold out for you, mate, other than pushing out?
Yeah, the singles drop in. Some festivals scattered throughout the year. Tour getting locked in. That hasn't been announced yet, but yeah, just all like the usual stuff, the usual drill. Yeah, and then sort of as well as all that going on, like start writing again. I think it's nice to be ahead. You know what I mean? At this time, instead of sort of like thinking, shit, I've got a month to get this stuff done. It's nice to kind of like be right. Okay, I've got a year to sort of like get something nice for 2025.
Nice one, man. Well, Troy, thanks for coming on, man. It's always great to chat to you, dude. Always great to catch up with you.
Great to speak to you, man.
Always good to have you on, mate. You know that. So at the beginning of the interview, they say, well, this works now, bud. I'm going to play The Strange, with it being the brand new single that you got going out. But what song of yours would you like us to play at the end of the interview?
On Fire from Fire Cosmic.
Yeah, happily lock that one in for you, mate. All right, Troy, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Nice one, dude. Thank you, man.
Anytime, buddy.